Hello, welcome to episode 83, I think, of the Fluffy Fibres podcast. A podcast on sewing and knitting a handmade wardrobe from head to toe. And I do hope this finds you well. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much to all of you who responded to my latest episode and who commented and took the time to tell me that they enjoyed this new episode, so thank you all so much, and a very warm welcome if you're new to this podcast, if you've recently subscribed or if you've just arrived today. I do hope you enjoyed it here. So my name is Isabelle and I am talking to you from southern France. So today, as in the previous episode, I am talking to you from the southern Cevennes. But I usually live in Montpellier. I love talking about how I make absolutely everything in my wardrobe, and I try to be rather thoughtful about the materials that I use and to create a very well matched wardrobe. So I do hope you enjoy. So yes, before I start, I just wanted again to thank you so very much. Thank all of you who were so kind to give some very, very helpful and constructive feedback on my qualms and my dilemma about filming in my native language, which is French, obviously, or in English. And so it was very, very useful to me to see that so many of you still enjoyed the podcast. And while a number of you were so very kind and so very considerate of my own time and told me that you would watch in either language and you would completely understand my not being able to film in both languages and that I had to do what was best for me. Many of you, did acknowledge that they wouldn't be able to understand a podcast in French, and so therefore they would miss the English podcast very much, even though obviously I'm not able to film very often. So if you're new here, that is something that I want to be really, really clear up front really with you, is that I tend to go through very, very intense periods at work, and as a result, a few months can elapse before I film, between episodes, so do not worry in this case, do not get discouraged. I'm always back. I started I started audio podcasting in 12 years ago in 2011, and then I switched to video a few years after that, and even though sometimes I took pretty long breaks, I'm always back because I do love to share. And what I've really truly realised with my previous episode is just how much I enjoy sharing, via this format, these long videos. And the reason for this is, my Instagram username is Isabelle Handmade Stories, and that's because to me, everything I make has a story, and it's something I talked about a little in my previous episode, the fact that we pour so much effect into our, not effect, but effect into our making, we pour so much emotions and everything that we live, that we're going through, as we're making, just is part and parcel of our makes. And as a result, these pieces that we create, they become involved, they become endowed with, they are just so much more than objects, really. And so that's really something that is very, very dear to my heart, to tell those stories of these, of my hand-making journey, really. And so you can find me also on my blog, which is Fluffy Fibres. You will find a number, I never talk about this, but you will find a number of free knitting patterns over there. They're also on Ravelry. So I have shawls, some socks as well, some DK socks that a lot of you seem to enjoy, my biscuit socks. So yes, and also you can find the show notes on my blog, but you can also find very, very detailed show notes under this video on YouTube. So if you look into the info bar, you will find everything that I talk about, all the links to everything, all neatly put together there by order of mention usually. And you also will find that because my videos tend to run rather long, because I have so many stories to share, I always divide my video into chapters, so that if you want to jump onto another part of the video, it's very, very easy to do so, because I do know how precious our time is. So yeah, if you are enjoying this video, I would really very much again appreciate your just telling me in the comments that you're happy to see a new episode. And what I would really love to know as well is where you are from and what you're doing as you're watching. Are you knitting or sewing or cleaning? I don't know, or just enjoying, you know, perhaps a cup of tea. And I would also love for you to share what you're drinking as you're watching. I just love, because that allows me to feel like we're really sharing a moment together. So yeah. So just regarding my dilemma as to whether to film in English or in French, I have decided for now to keep filming in both languages. I will not commit to film an equal number of videos in either language. You know, that will really depend. I have definitely found that filming in French, because it is my native language, it was just so quicker to edit, and so as a result it definitely encouraged me to continue filming in French. But because so many of you let me know of your interest in the English podcast, I would definitely also plan on continuing to film in English. But let us now delve into the actual content of this podcast. So today's episode will be completely centered around my sewing projects for this summer of 2023. My previous episode was devoted to my knitting during the current season. So today's episode will include my cup of tea, my handmade outfit, my finished sewing projects, and my upcoming projects as well. So in my cup of tea today there is another blend by Le Palais d'été, and that is Le Thé du Louvre, and it is a blend of green tea and plum, quince and apple, and it's just such a lovely blend that just announces, you know, the end of summer really, you know, with these summer into autumn fruit. And yeah, it's currently a little bit cooler here in the Tivano, which is absolutely lovely. And it just feels like, you know, autumn is just around the corner, which it is not. I mean, there are really quite warm temperatures that are forecast for next week, but still it just makes us feel like we can, you know, anticipate autumn a little. So that definitely is a summer into autumn tea to me. So for today's handmade outfit, I'm wearing a dress that I'll be addressing in my finished makes, because it's one of my very latest finishes, and it is the Marguerite Dress by Sew Over It. And I will be sharing some footage of this dress being worn so that you can see it completely. But it is, so yeah, it is a lovely dress pattern by the London company Sew Over It, and I made it in a beautiful viscose that was printed in France. And so yeah, more on this later. So for my finished garments, I have a couple of garments that are made for other people, and then I'll be sharing my additions to my own wardrobe. So first of all, I made, I did this in late June. I made a ball outfit for my daughter, because she just finished primary school, and at the end of primary school in her school the teachers organise like a sort of mini prom, which is not usual in France. I mean, you don't typically at all have proms for students of any age really, but yeah, so and I think it's such a lovely idea, you know, for the teachers to mark the end of the year with these students, with these children who are about to embark on a new adventure. And so of course I wanted my daughter to have an outfit that she would really feel herself in, but she would also really feel special in. And so we picked the pattern together and we went to the local fabric store to pick this fabric, which is some double gaze in this beautiful emerald green. And so yeah, so what I did was that I used a skirt tutorial really for this tiered skirt and ruffled skirt, This is from a French company called Romarine Couture. She doesn't have a lot of patterns, I think she just has a couple, maybe 3. And then she offers a lot of labels, you know, these sewing labels that you add to your garments with fun messages. And so this wasn't even really a pattern, this was more of a tutorial that, you know, explained to you how to cut out the pattern pieces. But I really enjoyed it nonetheless because the finishing instructions were really good, and you had many, you know, options as to length, etc, etc. And so for the first time I used an adult-sized pattern for my daughter. She's 11 and she's definitely soon going to be my height. I'm very short, so that, you know, that's not so surprising, but still for me it's quite something. And so for the first time I actually used one of my patterns to make her a garment. I did adapt the pattern, especially I think I did adapt the height of the panels here for her, but still it worked really well. And I really like the details in here because you have this elasticized waist just at the back, but then the front is this flat waistband which is much more flattering, and then you have this big bow as well, so it's really quite lovely. And so to match I made her this tank top. So what I did is that I actually used a tank top from you know, ready to wear from her wardrobe, and I added these flounces at the you know, at the strap. And to further have this work well with the skirt, I added this fabric flower. So she absolutely loved her outfit, and she felt really very happy, very herself, very festive and very special on that very special day. So this prom dance actually took place during school hours, you know, during the afternoon, but she had so much fun, and I'm so glad that I was able to make her exactly what she wanted so that she would feel like herself and not, you know, not in a costume really. So yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. And she's still of course wearing this, you know, this summer as well. She can wear them separately, so it's quite lovely as well. So for my second project that I also made for another girl, so what you have to know is that, and definitely if you follow me on Instagram you know that, but I was incredibly busy over the past year or even more than that, and I had very little time to sew because I worked even on weekends, and so I just didn't have any spare time. And you know how sewing does require a lot of brain space, you know, and energy, and so definitely not something I can do personally in the evening after a very full day, especially as I tend to get up really early to work. And so that is why over the past year or so I've definitely prioritised knitting over sewing, because I do need to knit even for, you know, even for a couple of rounds or rows every single evening to help me wind down and go to sleep. But yeah, I definitely need more energy and, you know, to concentrate for sewing, and that explains why I didn't sew much during the past you know, year or so, but I was lucky enough to finally have some holidays over the past couple of weeks, which hadn't happened in you know, many years actually, and so it just felt absolutely wonderful to sew my heart's content. And so that explains why this episode will definitely be rather long, I can anticipate that, and why there are so many sewn pieces here. So in normal circumstances this wouldn't happen, I wouldn't be showing so many sewn pieces. But anyway, so the first piece that I really sewed during my holidays was this, which is so these are culottes. I never know how to pronounce this in English because it comes from the French culotte, which doesn't mean the same thing. Culotte in French means panties, so it's always very funny for us. We do say that this is a jupe culotte, and in fact really, as you can see, It's a very, very long pair of trousers that are so wide that they look like a very, very wide, long skirt. And so I made this for the daughter of my friend Marianne, who is the knitting designer whom I talk so much about because I am a test knitter for her and I really love her designs. And if you've watched my previous episode, you may recall that she very, very generously sent over some sweaters, hand knit sweaters that she'd made for her own daughter. Her daughter is a bit older than mine, and so these, her daughter had outgrown the sweaters, and so she so kindly and generously sent them over for my own daughter, because she knows how much my daughter also appreciates hand knits and hand sewn items. And so to thank Marianne and her daughter, I have decided to sew her a few pieces. And so the first one of these pieces is this one. So I showed her a number of patterns, dresses, skirts, this, and let her pick one, and then I let her pick her fabric. I just gave her a few pointers as to what would work best with this pattern. So this is the result. So these are the Tivano Culottes by Rose Devant, and you can actually find this as also, I checked, and you can also find this as an English pattern on Makerist, the English version of Makerist. And so yeah, it has these slant pockets which are so nice, and as you can see here you have many pleats. Yeah, so it's really rather graceful on the front, even though you have this elasticized waist, because it falls rather flat, over, on the waist, and then at the back it is gathered. So it's just the the elastic that gathers up the fabric. So yeah, and as a small touch, I didn't have any handmade labels here at hand, so I made my own using some ribbon that I got. When you order fabric from Lise Tailor, it always comes tied into a lovely ribbon, which is, it has some glitter in it. So as you can see, I stitched these little hearts with my sewing machine. And I love this ribbon because this is typically what I use as grosgrain ribbon for, to stabilize my shoulder seams for all my knit fabrics, all my jersey dresses or tops. So I always have some handy. So yeah, I put a lot of care into this, since it's for someone else. So I was extra careful, and I really love the way it turned out. I loved making this. And as you'll see in my upcoming projects, I actually plan on making a pair for myself as well, and perhaps also for my daughter, because I think she would love this as well. So as for the fabric, it is a linen viscose blend, but more linen than viscose, in this lovely silver grey, light silver grey. I feel it has a very light pink tinge to it, But yeah, so the only trouble, so it's really lovely for this kind of make because it's so drapey, and fluid and flowy. But the only issue with this is that it creases like crazy, so I think I must have ironed it like almost 10 times as I was sewing it, so definitely it will crease as well upon wearing, but hopefully this will be okay. And I think it's just the fate of this kind of fabric, isn't it, to get creased a little, but yeah, and I think this can really get worn at any time of the year, because you can also wear it with tights underneath in the winter, right? So yeah, so I was so happy to make this. And now onto the items I sewed for myself. So first of all, I made this adorable little skirt, which is the Bliss Skirt pattern by Lise Tailor, and I made it in a Lise Tailor fabric as well. So I showed this skirt in my previous episode, I think, because I've been knitting so many linen tops to go with this. So this was the first time I made this little skirt. I'll be, of course, sharing pictures of it being worn, but it's a lovely little skirt with this panel at the front that, you know, floats around, very, very graceful. It is rather short, so I'm very short myself. I'm not 5'1". I'm between 5 foot and 5'1", and I typically need to shorten skirts or dresses, of course. So for this one I knew it was going to be short, so I didn't shorten it, but I didn't lengthen it either. And it is rather short even on me. A tiny bit shorter than I am used to wearing. I like my dresses and my skirt to be just above knee, you know, the knee length. But it's still, I mean, it is very wearable. It will be very wearable in the winter with, you know, dark tights as well. And that's what I love about this as well, is just how, again, how it can really get worn all through the year, across the seasons, because of these shades, right? I mean, it's very energetic and dynamic, but at the same time, I'm not sure if it's focusing. I think with all these little dots flying around, I think my camera has a very hard time knowing where to focus really with all these little dots. But anyway, yeah, it's with all these colours, I feel it's very dynamic, but also it has a lot of winter colours in it, doesn't it? So I love this. I just absolutely love it. I absolutely love this print. It has so many of my favourite colours in it. You know, this dark, like, navy blue background, and then you have petals of lighter blue, purple, aqua, fuchsia, so all the colours I love. And so that's why I'm so excited about this, because it's so easy to match, right? So, you know, you can match this to any colour you want that is existing in this print, and then I'm just having so much fun making things to go with this. I recently filmed a reel. I haven't edited it yet, but I filmed a video to show, you know, a number of options that I have with this little skirt, you know, knitted tops that I shared in my previous podcast, but also, as you'll see, some jersey tees as well. So yeah, so the pattern itself is really fun to make. I really do recommend it. All of Lise Tailor's patterns are both in English and in French, and it's such a cute and fun little number. Not basic. It's not super hard to make, but it's not basic either. And again, you have this, you know, waistband that is flat at the front and then is elasticized at the back, so that it's super comfy, but also, you know, rather polished as well. So I love it. I can really understand why some people just keep on making this pattern, because it's just so fun to make and to wear. So yeah, so that is something that I'll be showing a little bit more later, because I made a t-shirt to match it as well. Then the next item I made is the dress I'm wearing. So as I was telling you, this is the Marguerite Dress by Sew Over It. So Sew Over It London is a company that I used to sew from quite a lot in the past, because Lise Tailor, who owns Sew Over It, started her company with very strong vintage vibes, really, and that's definitely up my alley as well. And so this definitely, to me, has a bit of a vintage vibe, you know, with the very, you know, the cinched in waist, and then this, you know, the volume at the bodice that is made by ruffles, by gathers rather, but also these soft gathers at the waist, but it's also rather fitted. It closes with hopefully you will see that it closes with an invisible zipper. And yeah, so the Marguerite Dress is actually a pattern that I'd used in the past in 2020, and I made one of my favourite dresses out of this. It's one of the dresses that I feel really confident and graceful in. And so when I purchased this beautiful print, which was actually a birthday gift from my in-laws, you know, it was such a special fabric that I really didn't want to take any risks with it, so I decided to use a tried and true pattern of one of my favourite dresses. I'm just so happy with the combination of this pattern and this fabric, and I know this is a dress that I will love wearing in the, you know, couple of months to come. because, you know, summer tends to last quite a long time here in Montpellier in southern France. And so I'm sure I will be able to wear this well into September, you know. So yeah, I'm very, very happy about this. And the fabric is an absolute dream. So this is from a newer company, French company. And it is some viscose that is printed in France, very near to so My Dressmaid, who is the creator, the designer. And so what is really wonderful about this fabric is that it is very, very drapey and very slinky almost viscose. So it irons like a dream. It doesn't crinkle, it doesn't crease much at all. I was really impressed with this. So it was so nice to sew, and it took the gathers so well as well, because the fabric is so, you know, drapey. The gathers are very, you know, they remain, you know, they don't create too much volume. So it's really lovely for, you know, for gathers for this reason. It's just so nice to wear because it feels so silky. You know, viscose doesn't mean much, does it? I mean, depending on the weave, it can be so different. It can vary so dramatically, right? But this specific one is just a dream. It's just so lovely. And the colours are right up my alley. They are vibrant. It's just what I love, just my palette. So I'm absolutely over the moon. So after this, I made this cute little skirt, and I mentioned this in my previous podcast. I showed you the fabric, but I hadn't sewn it up yet. So this is the Olivia viscose by Lise Tailor. It's a beautiful olive green, and you have these lovely little dots. You know, sprigs and dots that really evoke lilac blossoms to me. And so this was a gift, the fabric was a gift from a dear friend. I had 50 centimeters of this, and so what I did was very, very simple. I simply used the whole height of my fabric, so obviously squared it off, and I just made one seam at one side. I used the entire width of the fabric, you know, just cut off the selvages, and I hemmed it at the bottom, and then for the top I used the finishing technique, the waistband that you can find in the Lisette pattern by Lise Tailor. So it's very, very simple, but it creates this lovely paper bag waistband. And the way in which you do this is you fold over your fabric, I think it's 5 centimeters, or maybe 6 rather, and then you fold over the raw edge here, you fold it under, you stitch it, you leave a small opening, and then you stitch another row here. I always top stitch from the right side actually, and I do invite you to do the same. It just often is much neater if you do this. You know, your top stitches are always neater than those from the bobbin. And so yeah, so you top stitch then, you know, to create a casing. So the height you need for the width of your elastic, just add, I think, you know, 1/2 centimeter to allow for the elastic to travel across, to, you know, to move around freely. So yeah, and then you just insert your elastic from the small opening you'd left. You sew the elastic shut, and then you sew the little opening shut, and you're good to go. You've got a lovely little skirt ready. And so you may recall that I knit a top specifically to go with this skirt, and I'm just showing it to you again. So it is this lovely crocus top from Lene Tosti in this beautiful shade, which is Elébor, from the Derirum Natura linen range, the Antigone range. So yeah, so I'm just so happy with this little outfit. I do have one regret though, and I do realise that I could have done the top a little shorter. It would have been more flattering with the skirt, but this height is perfect over a pair of jeans as well, so you know, you can't have both both options really. So yeah, That is another quick little make that I really enjoyed making as well, and that I know I'll very much enjoy wearing over the next few months. And then I sewed a couple of pieces in jersey fabric. So the first one is this one. It's such a lovely t-shirt, isn't it? I mean, this printed panel is so lovely. So it says Flower Lover. This is, I think you can still find it on Lise Tailor's website. This one was from last winter's collection. And so it is a panel that is printed with this motif. So this is not like, you know, ironed onto or anything. It's just very, you know, it will stay put because it's really printed into it. And so she offered kits of this with, you know, to make a t-shirt, but I didn't quite care for the t-shirt pattern really. But after that she started offering the panel on its own at a cheaper price. And so that's what I got, and I used my favourite, absolute favourite t-shirt pattern, which is the Agnes T by Tilly and the Buttons. It just works so well on me because it's quite shaped, you know, at the waist. You've got quite a bit of shaping at the waist, and I made 3/4 sleeves. I first cut the sleeves to be long sleeves, but then just as I tried it on, I just felt it worked better with the 3/4 sleeves. And so this I can wear with, obviously, over a pair of jeans. I can wear over this skirt. It just goes so perfectly with it. As you can see, it's just the same colours, which is always the beauty of Lise Tailor's fabrics. You know, everything is tailored to match. So her yarns and then her fabric are tailored to match one another, and then I was so happy to see that both of these worked so well together. This motif is actually taken from one of her fabrics that came out last winter that I absolutely adored, and I made a skirt out of this, and I love wearing that skirt. It's called Nuit Fleurie, and so floral night. And so I, you know, made this t-shirt to go with that skirt, but then I realised it would look so well with this. And actually, last winter I made a mohair cardigan that is this exact same shade of purple that I haven't shared yet on Instagram, and I haven't it here, but it's just going to make such splendid outfits. So I'm so excited to have, you know, all of these coordinating pieces in my wardrobe. And that's really, you know, it's one of the reasons why I don't get people feeling guilty over always going towards the same shades and the same palette and the same styles, because it's just your style, it's just your palette, you know. Why should we force ourselves to go out of our comfort zone, right? I mean, why? Because the beauty of this is, I mean, look how well these two go together as well. It's just my palette, you know. And the beauty of this is that when I open my handmade wardrobe at home, I have all these beautifully coordinating garments. You know, I gravitate towards pinks and purples and blues, and as a result, you know, my cardigans and sweaters that I knit tend to go so easily. You know, it's so easy for me to match my hand knits to my hand sewn items, to match my tops and my bottoms, and I just, you know, don't feel guilty for going towards what brings you joy, really, because it's ultimately what you will have joy wearing as well, right? So yeah, I'm just so excited about all this. It's just, for me, it's one of my daily joys, you know, to match, to mix and match my handmade items, to plan, you know, carefully plan my future projects so that they seamlessly go into my wardrobe. But I have found that it is made definitely more accessible and definitely easier for me because I always go towards the same shades, right? But you know, we all know what suits us as well, right? To me, it's definitely winter colours, you know, jewel tones, deep, vibrant colours, and just, I think we feel what works best with you know, with our complexion and our style, and why should we push ourselves to do otherwise, you know? I mean, just I don't know. And also, isn't that the beauty of making our wardrobe, right? I mean, we can pick any shade we want, even if it's not in, you know, even if it's not trendy. It's just wonderful. So the final item that I made, my latest one, is this dress, which won't show well at all here. And I haven't photographed it yet, so I apologise for that. But I'll be sharing pictures of the pattern that I use so that you get an idea of the style. But this is a jersey dress, you know, like a sweater dress that I made out of a French pattern, which is the Sam dress by Sophie Denis. And I used a kit from Jolie Lab, which is another company from Lyon, like, you know, just like my dress made on Lise Tailor. And they offer kits and patterns, but especially they specialise in kits with more sustainable fabrics most of the time. They also are very, very careful about, you know, sourcing their materials as well. Most of their materials come from France as well. And so they offered a kit for a sweater dress, I think that's how you say it in English, in this beautiful organic cotton jersey, and in this beautiful shade of blue, which I'm just obsessed with. And so yeah, but the thing is, the pattern that they did offer within the kit, you know, you had this, you know, more casual kind of finish at the neckline with some ribbing, and I wanted a more polished look. So you had the option to purchase the kit without the pattern, which is what I did, and then I used the Sam dress pattern. And so as you can see here, the neckline is more polished because it's really just folded over. I used twin needles here, so it's just folded over. And so I can't remember if Sophie Denis's patterns come in English. I hope they do. I'll insert it somewhere on the screen if they don't, but I was so impressed with this pattern. You know, it's a very simple dress, so you do have a slit at so it's a really long, like ankle length dress, right? And you have a slit at the bottom here, and you do have, so in the Jolie Lab kit, you have the materials to make your own belt as well, with this beautiful belt buckle. That is so nice, isn't it? So of course I didn't have the pattern for the belt itself, but when watching the pictures for the Michelle dress by Jolie Lab, I noticed that it actually was a tapered kind of belt, so it grows slightly wider. So yeah, so very easy to make, obviously. And but I think most of the time I will definitely be wearing this with like a dark brown or black belt with boots. I think that will be just so fabulous. And my issue is I'm fearing it might be a little bit long on me, and I might perhaps I should also bring the slit up a little so that it does, fall at my knee. I don't have a full-length mirror here, so it's very hard for me to check the fit of garments and especially the length. So actually I should really photograph this, so this will really help me get an idea. So to go back to the pattern itself, I was really impressed with how detailed the instructions were, and also the pattern comes actually in 3 heights, which is so rare. So you have the pattern is cut for different statures, different builds, and so the smallest build was 1 meter and 60. I am 1 meter and 54, and so I figured this would match me well, this would suit me well, this length. But I'm thinking maybe I should remove just a few, maybe a couple centimeters, perhaps 2 or 3. It is a shame because I've completely finished the dress. I've top stitched everything with my, with some twin needles. But yeah, I mean, I want to be able to feel really wonderful in this and to wear it, so it's always worth taking a bit more time so that you actually do enjoy the finished result, right? So that is it for my finished sewing projects, and so now let's move on to my upcoming projects. First of all, I'm planning on making a few items for little ones. So first of all, my brother, so I'm from a relatively large family of 4 children, and each of my siblings has either 3 or 4 kids, and so my brother just had a little girl. So she's the latest addition to the family. She's the 13th grandchild for my mother, and so we're also excited for him because he has 3 boys and now he has this beautiful little girl, and so I want to make her a couple of outfits using this beautiful jersey panel from Lise Tailor. And so on the one hand you have these precious kitties and it says precious little one. So cute, isn't it? And then on the other side of the panel you have this lovely print that matches perfectly. And so the idea is that you use, of course, this to, you center this over a top, for instance, and then you use these for sleeves or leggings or anything you want, right? And so I'm going to use a tried and true pattern that I sewed so much for my son. It is the Cordoba outfit by Couture, and it's definitely also in English. I know her entire website is also in English. And so I'm going to make a top with this and the bottoms out of this, and I'm hoping I have enough to make another little garment, and I'm thinking of making the harem romper by Brandy and Twig, which I also have made a number of times for various little ones within the family or for friends as well. And so for this I have a couple of pieces of ribbing. So I have this one, which is a lovely coral shade, which matches the flower here pretty well, the heart of the flowers. And then I have this one, which is much more subdued, much softer, which matches the blue, the greyish blue flowers as well. So I'm thinking of, if I have enough fabric, of using one of these for the romper and the other for the little outfit, the little top and trousers. It's going to be so precious. So this is definitely next under my serger pressing foot. And then also I plan on sewing a couple of trousers for my own little boy. So my little boy, who is not so little because he's now 7, which I have such a hard time believing he just turned 7, and he's still very much, he's very incredibly thin, and as a result, no trousers fit him in ready to wear. So I've already made him quite a few trousers because that's the only way I know they will fit. And typically, just for reference, he's still able to wear stuff that I made for him when he was 18 months and he's 7. Of course they're a little short, but they're still, like shorts still work really well, right? They're just a bit shorter. And the little leggings that I made him like 6 years ago, he still wear to, as pajamas, so that's insane. And so I'll be sharing a picture of the trousers I love making him. These are the gym trousers by Couture. Again, Couture is my go-to pattern brand for children, really. And so actually I think this particular pair of trousers you can get for free, if I'm not mistaken, when you subscribe to the newsletter, to the Couture newsletter. You get to pick one among quite a few free patterns. She has maybe 4, and you get to pick one of these when you subscribe, which is so lovely. And I'm so glad I used this one because I've sewn it so many times by now. And so I typically use the size 2 years for the width, and then I I change up the length as years go by. And so he loves these. They're still fit just about lengthwise. They're getting a little short now, so I want to make him a couple of new pairs of this in the same fabric, which is this gorgeous vibrant blue, which is organic jersey from fabrics.net. So this, as you can see, I have quite a bit of it because actually I initially got this for me, but what I've found with this particular fabric, even though it's organic jersey, it has quite a high amount of elastane in it. I think it's 7%. So you do have quite a high amount of man-made material in it, and it's also very, very dense. And so as a result, I find it's not very breathable. And so the dresses or tops that I've made out of this fabric in other shades, I don't really wear much anymore because I just get so sweaty in them, really. So not very nice to wear and very disappointing, given that this is, you know, organic cotton mostly. But of course they work really, really well as trousers because they are quite sturdy actually. And so yeah, I'm going to make him another pair from this one. The nice thing about the gym trousers as well is that, so first of all, it has these slanted pockets that I like, and it has, you have the option of adding these knee patches, which definitely are really good to protect the knees, but also are very handy for a kid because it's very easy for him to see the front from the back thanks to these knee caps. So that's really, you know, these knee patches. So that's really nice. Yeah, and so hopefully also be able to make him another pair from a sweatshirt fabric that I have as well. So that is it for my, you know, my upcoming sewing for other people, for little ones. And then, as you can see here, my palette is going more towards the pinks and these maroons that I also love. So I definitely have these two main themes, main palettes in my wardrobe, either these blue, you know, these blue or very cool tones, or this kind of pink and maroons. So I showed you this, I think, in my previous podcast, because I am knitting a top to go with this beautiful fabric. So this is Anemone by Eglantine Zoé, another French designer. This fabric is actually printed in Portugal. What is beautiful about it is that it is printed, I mean, the colour is, you know, you can see it on both sides. I think you say also in English it's dyed in the mass, meaning the wrong side is also dyed. This is really good because it means that the wrong side isn't white. So if the wrong side shows, it's not an issue. You know, you don't really see it as the wrong side. For instance, the panel for this skirt, that is a bit of, you know, this is a more traditionally printed viscose, and so the inside is white, and so if the panel flips over in the wind, you can see the white. So that's really much appreciated, the fact that one is dyed in the mass. And so as you can see, this is such a gorgeous fabric. So the background is really a light pink. Okay, it's showing a little warm on the screen. Maybe I might adapt when I edit the video. I might adjust the colours, but it's really a nude, like a very light pink background, and this is definitely cooler in real life. And so as you can see, I picked this jersey to match. I'm going to make a tank top out of this jersey to match these flowers, right? And if you recall, I'm also knitting this top in this wine shade to match as well this fabric. So yeah, so I really look forward to turning this into a wide flowy circle skirt that will be just so gorgeous for autumn. And the reason why I want a circle skirt with this is because the design is so beautiful and bold. I just don't want to break it out into sections. I want the pieces to be as wide as possible to really make this design sing, really make this print sing. So yeah. I also dug out this fabric from older stash, I have to admit. This is from a much older collection by Lise Tailor, and I love the print. I think it's just so gorgeous. You know, so fun and vibrant, but it's a bit warm for my complexion, so I've had a hard time finding a pattern to work with this. So I'm going to, I think, make a skirt out of this. So I'm debating between a couple of patterns, either the Feuillette skirt by Cousette, which is a wrap skirt with lovely pleated details at the front, or a more simple Lila skirt by Le Camellia Rose Florence. And I've made this skirt, I'll share a picture, I've made this skirt in the past. It's a very easy skirt to make, and I think it would look really lovely. It might look really lovely for this, you know, in this fabric. And lastly, I told you earlier that I wanted to make also a pair of culottes. I'm just sorry, I know I'm not pronouncing this right, and I apologise for this. I just don't think I will get the proper pronunciation. But yeah, so I want to make the Tivano Culottes for myself as well, and for this I'm going to use this gorgeous crepe from Atelier Brunette. It's the River, Lucy River. So I think Lucy is the name of the print and River is the name of the colorway. It's so stunning. I absolutely love this print. I mean, Atelier Brunette is just another amazing French designer of fabric, right? And so yeah, I love this. I think it's all because this is a viscose crepe, so it's very flowy and drapey and slinky, and so I think it will work really well with these, you know, this very wide skirt. So yeah, so I do hope you've enjoyed all of this. Do let me know if you did enjoy this, and I'm just so very grateful to you for sticking to the very end of the video. I'm sure it will be pretty long, so I do hope that you enjoyed it. And so yeah, I'm not sure when I'll be back because obviously filming 4 episodes back to back, you know, 2 in English, 2 in French, is taking a bit of time, and definitely now I'll have to sew things and knit things so that I can have new things to talk to you about. So I'm not sure when I'll next speak to you, but until next time, I hope your making brings you joy. Bye bye friends, take care.